Yes, so much secretary.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Councillor Laura Vinks, and I would like to welcome you all to the council meeting of 1st of February 2022, our first meeting for the year. This meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules and the Ministerial Good Practice Guidelines MGPG-1 for virtual meetings. After a taste of in-person meetings late last year, unfortunately, we have now returned to the virtual platform until further notice. We acknowledge the traditional custodians on the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationships they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Today we're meeting on the lands of the Taungurung people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose sovereignty here has never been ceded. This meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules and the Ministerial Good Practice Guidelines MGPG-1 for virtual meetings. All of our councils and staff are working remotely and alone, so there is no need for them to wear face masks so you can see and hear them properly. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, meetings are being held virtually. Voting at today's meeting will be held by a show of hands. If a councillor has a conflict of interest in a matter, they will be asked to leave the meeting and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure that they have done so. Councillors will be contacted to rejoin the meeting after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. If we have technical difficulties during today's meeting, which means we are unable to broadcast the meeting to the public, we will adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes. If the issue is not resolved after this time, we may extend the adjournment or even delay the consideration of unfinished business on the agenda to another day when the meeting is able to be streamed live. CEO Solomon, do we have any apologies or leaves of absence to report?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Binks, no, there are no apologies or leaves of absence.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. And councillors, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest to be made under Rule 94 of our governance rules and Division 2 of the Local Government Act 2020? And I will extend this disclosure to officers as well. No, I can't see anyone. So, okay, we've got no disclosures for conflicts of interest. Okay, we'll now move over to our officer reports. We have members of the public wishing to virtually address the meeting on an item 5.3.1 tonight. Under our governance rules, all parties have 5 minutes to speak. Councillors may ask questions of clarification to the submitter, but there will be no debate with the submitter. So we'll move on to item 5.3.1, tender for contract number 21/22-12, construction of Lake Ngambie foreshore path. Director Tingay, may we have a summary on this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This tender, the construction for the Lake Ngambie foreshore pathway, is a project that has been in the making for quite some time. This report seeks Council's approval to appoint a suitably qualified contractor to undertake the construction of an all-accessible pedestrian path along the foreshore at Lake Ngambie. This will provide connectivity and a link between the Regatta Centre and the Ngambie CBD. This project has funding from the federal government and the state government, with the state government supporting the project with a financial contribution of $3 million and also financial support from Strathbogie Shire Council. This project is in the council's budget 21-22. Following the public tender process, the first time that the tender was let, unfortunately no tenders were received for the construction of the path. This was due to COVID and the timing that the tender was let, which prevented prospective tenderers to come and view the actual site. The tender was then re-advertised and we received 3 tenders submitted for the works. Following the tender evaluation process and subsequent negotiation with the preferred tenderer, particularly in relation to price, officers are now at a point where we would like to recommend to Council that this tender be awarded for the construction of the Nagambie Lake foreshore pathway for a lump sum, and that tender be awarded to Gradient Projects Proprietary Limited, which is a Shepparton-based company. As indicated, Mayor Binks, we have Jim and Donna Winter-Irving who would like to address the meeting tonight. So if it's okay with you, I will hand over to them. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Amanda and Donna and James Winter-Irving. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Councillors, we will listen to them and then we can ask clarifying questions. So over to you, Donna and James, and you'll need to unmute your microphone. There we go.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everyone. We're James and Donna Winter-Irving. We hope you've all read this morning's email outlining our objection to point 6 of the Council recommendation 5.3.1 tender contract for the construction of Nagambie Lake foreshore pathway. And thank you, Julie, for responding quickly and providing us the opportunity to speak tonight. Point 6 states, note and endorse that any further variations to the tender design as requested by any of the adjoining property owners will A, be met in full, design and construction variation costs by the property owner. It is ridiculous, unjust and unfair that as landholders we have been entitled to unrestricted access to Lake Nagambie for 100 years, and despite 22 months of proactive engagement in the council process and clearly outlining the importance of boat access, the boardwalk project went to tender without accommodating our requirements. How could it not be included in the tender design? For what reason? Now, in the council recommendation point 6, we the landholders are expected to pay for any variation to the tender design, despite an apology in an email from Kristen Favaloro on the 26th of the 8th, 21. In an email from Mayor Laura Binks on the 18th of the 1st, 22, she advised us that the boardwalk height still had not been determined. After receiving the report for the recommendation late last Friday, James made a phone call to Amanda Tingay, the Director of Planning and Community, yesterday and was advised for the first time of the boardwalk height and clearance.
Good evening. We are just citizens, just doing our best to understand and engage in council process and don't know what more we could have done. Excluding lake access has significant financial implications to the value of our property and therefore should be a factor into the project. This is like building a brick wall in front of our house and driveway and you are expected to pay to get access. We are asking to have the boardwalk height raised to the height of this ruler so that our family will not be decapitated on our way to go fishing. Therefore, we are requesting that point 6 be amended or removed to accommodate our current boat access.
Let's read that one again. I just want to read that again, that this is like someone building a brick wall in front of your house and driveway and you are expected to pay to get access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna and James. Councillors, do you have any questions to clarify Donna and James's points? I do note that you did provide us with a detailed email this morning, and I know that it has been of discussion today, so it may be that councillors are fully aware of what's happening, and I don't see any hands up. So thank you for taking the time to present to council this evening, Donna and James. Councillors, do you have any questions of Amanda Tingay, our officer who's given us a report on this? Do you have any clarifying questions? No. Okay.
Mayor, I think Councillor Hayes-Burke does.
Thank you. I did miss that. Thank you. Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Thanks, Mayor Binks. Yes, Director Tingo, when were we advised about the height? When was that sort of public, I guess? Or when could we have advised the landholders?
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. In regards to as Jim and Donna pointed out, I certainly advised of the height yesterday in relation to what had been agreed to. I understand that there was previous correspondence that had been sent to Donna and James in relation to the height. However, I would need to take that on notice to confirm the date that was sent, because that wasn't sent from myself.
So, okay, thanks, Sally. Thanks, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Murray. You might be on mute, Councillor Murray.
Can I ask a general question? Is there direct access to the lake from this property without going under the boardwalk?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. In relation to as it currently stands, in particular from James and Donna's property, could I just clarify that?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Donna and James, perhaps you're best to answer that as the property owners.
No, we won't have access. Just to clarify, with the boardwalk with the height, we'll be able to potentially get a canoe under if we duck our heads, and very little opportunity. Don't think there'll be an opportunity to get a tinny under without having to duck and without safety. We have no other access.
It'll be difficult, very difficult.
Because I think probably, as Kristen alluded to in August, that our access wasn't included because we don't have a jetty. This was, as we explained in the email this morning, this was an access created to build the rowing course. So there's nothing structural here, it's just an opening, and that's the way we want to continue it, considering you're all aware of our environmental dedication to.
Amanda, can I just clarify, perhaps for councillors in this matter? So my understanding, the point 6 in the recommendation refers to the variation to the plans as they stand today is what we're awarding the tender on, and there's point 7, which then is an exception to recommendation 6A. So there has been an opportunity for the boardwalk to come back onto land at each property to allow for those adjoining property owners to still maintain access to Lake Ngambie, but it would be via a land a section of the foreshore walk coming back onto land. Am I correct in that understanding?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor Binks. Essentially, there is an option to come back on to land, and as per dot point 7, that would be at the cost borne by council. Sorry, Councillor Murray, I thought your question was in relation to what access exists currently, in relation to what's currently available. But in regards to the actual foreshore walk, yes, there is the option to come back on land, and as per dot point 7, that would be a cost borne by council, and obviously there's also the other option of raising the boardwalk at the landowner's cost, which is what we had discussed previously.
Thanks for that clarification, Amanda. Councillor Murray, does that clarify your question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Are there any further questions of Director Tingay, councillors? I can't see any hands up or heads shaking, so sorry, I'm madly looking around the screen here. Okay, so councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is?
Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Yes, Councillor Andrews.
Yes, I'd like to move a motion based on the recommendation as printed on pages 1 and 2 of the agenda, with an amendment to recommendation point 6 to read as follows. Point 6, note and endorse that any further variations to the tendered design as requested by any of the adjoining property owners will, A, be met in full, design and construction variation costs by the property owner, and B, not unduly delay the project by compromising construction timelines, with all variations agreed and finalised for further design and costing no later than the 28th of February 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. And councillors, is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there any opposition to the motion? I can't see any. So, Councillor Andrews, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a long time coming, as we're all aware, and up to 10 years ago this was received, and it's been worked on since, and finally come to fruition. It will give a very positive outlook to the town. It will give the opportunity for visitors and locals who do walk regularly, and there's a large group of them who've spoken to me, to enjoy the lakeside there next to the rowing course. It will also draw, I guess, visitors to the region. That will get them into Strathbogie and allow them then to further explore the delights we have here within our Shire. So I'm positive for the actual walk. I think it'll add value to the town, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Essentially, there's only one change that I can see to the existing or previous motion, and that is by putting a date of 28th of February. And this whole process has had extensive consultation. I believe everyone's been given every opportunity to speak, whether it be in favour or against. And I think that extending it beyond another month is really not necessary. I think a month is enough. So yeah, that's essentially what I've got to say on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Did any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you, Mayor Binks. I think this is a fantastic project, and I think it's great for the community of Lake Ngambie. And we talk about environmental health, but also the health of human beings and being able to have this boardwalk. And I think COVID has brought that out in a lot of people, and Ngambie is seriously lacking in basic facilities like this. And so I think it's going to be great for tourism, but I think the locals are having a win. And I do also want to make a special note that I thank the Minister Thomas and the state government for contributing $3 million to this fantastic project. And I think it's good to get out there and say thank you to them. And that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Would any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Councillor Murray.
Can I raise a point of clarification? Are we debating the amendment or the motion at this point?
No, we've had an. Oh, hang on, I'm getting a nod from Dawn. Dawn, do you want to clarify?
So yes, the motion is what Councillor Andrews put forward in terms of just that amendment to what was in the paper. So we only have one motion in front of us, which is the motion now.
Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. Okay, councillors. I'll now put the motion to a vote. If I can get a show of hands for all those in favour of the motion. And anyone against? No, and I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, Donna and James. I appreciate this isn't the outcome that you desired, but I encourage you to work with council to get an outcome which will meet your requirements to maintain access to the water, and there are methods in which we can achieve that, as has been outlined in the documentation. So council officers will be in touch to work out that and continue the process. So thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stay online, but you also do not need to.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, councillors, we will now move on to item 5.3.2, the Lake Nagambie Floating Water Park. Director Tingay, can we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council recently called for expressions of interest through a public tender or expression of interest process to seek a developer and operator for a floating water park as proposed at Lake Nagambie. So the floating water park would consist of a number of inflatable obstacles, and the proposed location for the floating water park is at Buckley Park in Nagambie. That area was chosen given to the size that of water that's available there for the footprint, and also the depth of water as well to meet our minimum requirements. The multi-staged public expression of interest process included 3 stages. Stage 1 was an EOI assessment process. So as part of that assessment process, officers reviewed the applications that were submitted. As part of that process, 3 tenderers were then invited to stage 2, which was a presentation to a panel of council officers in relation to their submission. From there was a further shortlist, and stage 3 include an economic analysis where we asked this prospective tenderers to be able to detail what the public/private partnership would look like in terms of economic benefit and also their commitment to the project. So following the assessment process, there is a recommendation for you tonight, councillors, as part of your agenda, and that is. Sorry, I've just got a bit of feedback there, and that is to recommend that Exco Construct Proprietary Limited, who have a subsidiary company, Wacky Water Play, be awarded the tender for this project. There's a recommendation, councillors, on page 11 for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Sorry, we always have been giggling a bit today about wacky water world, wacky water play, making sure we got it right for tonight's meeting. Councillors, do you have any questions of Director Tingay? No? Okay. Oh, yes, Councillor Andrews.
Apology, Mayor.
No, that's all
I'm
right.
just interested in how far out from the bank, if you like, or out from Buckley Park Bank, will the park go? How far out into the actual lake?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Binks. So the actual inflatable components of the park covers an area of roughly 3,000 square metres. In terms of the exact location from the foreshore, so to speak, that will roughly be around 40 to 50 metres. And that's to be allowed to accommodate for the depth of water that we need to be able to achieve for the water park.
And so if that's 50 metres, then it'll go 60 metres the other way, which makes our 3,000. Is that right? My maths right?
That sounds about right.
That'll do. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andrews, and thank you, Director Tingay. Was there any other further clarification required on that project? No. Okay. Councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that the recommendation on page 11 be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Andrews, thank you. Is there any opposition to this motion? No? Okay, Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I think this is all in keeping with the progress that's happening within our Shire and in particular within Nagambie. It will be really greatly appreciated by the town, especially the younger people, and it should be a real tourism boost for us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Andrews, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to add that I think it is a Shire asset, and I'm sure it'll draw people from all over Strathbogie as well as outside, and hopefully it'll be a very enjoyable and safe time for people. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. Okay, councillors. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, can I see a show of hands, please? And all those against? And I declare that one carried. Thank you, councillors. We will now move to item 5.3.3, tender for contract number 2021-69, design and construction of the waterfront infrastructure access for proposed Lake Nagambie floating water park. Director Tingay, can we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This report relates to tender item 20-21-69. So this is to be able to facilitate some land works that we need to undertake to be able to support the development of the on-water floating park. So as part of these land infrastructure works, they would include tests, detail engineering design and construction of an access way to be able to lead to the on-water park. The tender process was undertaken some time ago, but was put on hold due to our search for an operator and developer for the actual floating park. So now that that resolution has been made by council, we are now in a position to be able to consider the land option. As part of the tender process, there was 2 tenderers that submitted for the works. There is a recommendation on page 19 of the agenda, and that is to award the contract to facilitate these on-land works to Duratec Australia Proprietary Limited. They are a company that are based in Western Australia. However, they do have offices located in Melbourne and other capital cities. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any clarifying questions or further information sought from Director Tingay? Yes, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. To Director Tingay, I got a hint when we were talking about this afternoon that the council were involved in the actual floaty business, but now they're going to direct our, whatever it is, attention to the on-land bit and hand over the whole platform area to the company who's got the tender. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Mayor Binks. Yes, so that's correct. So essentially, council will be responsible for the on-land works that need to be undertaken, and the developer and operator of the actual floating park will be responsible for the on-water components. So yes, that's correct.
And so just further, if the park collapses or there's a damage to one of the pontoons, that'll be taken care, won't be a council expense?
No, that'll be as part of the development for the on-water works. Yes, not as part of council.
And all right, topic of the month is the jumping castles and so forth.
Yes.
And the risks with those, is the council indemnified or saved from any such incidences?
Yes, so through you, Mayor Binks. So obviously there are particular regulations that support inflatable parks and inflatable objects. So it is certainly, and being a contractor, so to speak, that is highly experienced in this area, they will be aware of the requirements. In addition, should there be any event approval permit that is required from the council, we have been providing or will be providing advice in relation to inflatables for any potential permit applicant to advise around what the minimum requirements are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those clarifying questions and answers. That was really great. Thanks to both of you. Is there any other further information sought from councillors regarding this part of the project, or the item in front of us? No, everyone is okay. Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Horrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that we adopt the recommendation on page number 19 of the agenda, please.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there any opposition to the motion? No, I do not see any. Okay, councillors. Councillor Horrigan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. So, I mean, overall, this is a fantastic project for our Shire. It is absolutely very exciting. I thank the officers, because I know it was a lot of work putting this all together, especially when we weren't getting tenders during COVID, etc. And I would like to say thank you to Melanie Lykos, because she was very passionate about this project, and she did do a lot as well to advocate for it and for Ngambie. So I do want to make sure that I give her a special mention in this one. I think she'll be very excited when she sees this project as a whole. And it's just something else that is needed for our Shire. We don't have anything fun like this. And so I can't wait to go down and take the kids in summer. And I hope all the locals and tourists alike do. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
I agree with everything that Councillor Horrigan has said, and this will be terrific for the kids. So, and also acknowledge the hard work that the officers have put in, and let's go.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? No. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands, please? All those in favour? And against? No, and I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, councillors, there is no confidential business to consider on this agenda, and councillors, the next ordinary meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council, and I will pre-warn our public, it will be a long agenda, is scheduled to be held virtually on the 15th of February, Tuesday the 15th of February, starting at 6 p.m. And there's being no further business to today's meeting, I declare the meeting closed at 6:36 p.m. and thank you all very much and see you on the 15th.